Hello, my seniors, BP seniors. Thank you so much for watching this recording of Leadership Academy number 5. Today's Leadership Academy is really going to focus on financial literacy and demystify on a very much so introductory level your financial aid award. So as you guys may know, your financial aid award letter is looming just around the corner. So really today's presentation is all about teaching you certain skills that you need to develop so that you can be successful and financially sound while you're in college, hopefully. So without further ado, let's get started. So these are some announcements, some of which have already passed, but one of the ones that is looming right around the corner, is the Pomona Valley Medical Series, which for those of you who don't know, Pomona Valley, we have a partnership with them where they have actual doctors come in and teach you all about what their journey has been like to get to medical school. Some of them are already practicing physicians. So for those of you that are interested in joining, I highly encourage you to scan the QR code that's right in the middle for you to get that assistance. Additionally, you guys remember, Bright Prospect is holding, I should say, financial aid verification one-on-ones. So my colleagues and I are part of this year's assistance program. For those of you that were selected for verification, if you don't know what that means that essentially either you apply to a CSU, a Cal State, or a UC, a University of California, and the financial aid office noticed something that perhaps was a discrepancy for them. So they want you to follow up. They may want you to follow up with additional documentations. We are here to support you in that endeavor at Bright Prospect. Please scan that QR code at the very top if you are interested in signing up for a one-on-one, anything related to the financial aid verification process and so forth. Okay? Next slide. Let's get going. Awesome. So what is today's objective? Very simple. Your objective for today is for you to learn the definition, I should say, of financial literacy. Why is it important? Why does it matter? You will also be equipped with different tools and strategies to maximize your financial efficiency. Additionally to that, students will also learn how to understand their financial aid award letter on a macro level and the importance of financial responsibility while in college. For those of you that may know, this recording is obviously being posted in the beginning of this month of March. For the month of March, our LA number 6 is a very in-depth introduction in really breaking down and helping you understand your financial aid award letters that are going to be coming in your way. So don't fret, look out for that. LA, we are presenting at Gary. Yesterday we presented in person at Gary. We will also be presenting at Diamond Ranch, and in addition to that, we will be presenting at Village Academy. I encourage you to look at the calendar that was shared with you all on the Google Classroom page so you know exactly when I'm going to be on your campus. But as always, if in that month I'm not going to be on your campus, understand that we're going to have a virtual Zoom event where I cover the LA for the month. Okay, so I'm not forgetting about y'all. Okay, so let's see. What is financial literacy and why is it important? So, very basic, financial literacy really just focuses on your ability to prioritize and strategize your income. Budget, guys, in such a way that creates a culture of efficiency and sustainability for your lifestyle. Very simple. At the end of the day, you don't have to be a millionaire or a billionaire to live a satisfactory life. It's all about budgeting and maximizing your resources and your time. That is why financial literacy is so important, especially as you guys go off to college, where your source of income is very limited because obviously you are in school. Okay? Now, financial literacy is important for many reasons, right? When you go off to college, it's important that you have a solid understanding how to manage your finances efficiently because failure to do so can often lead to high stress, not just for yourself, but for your family too. Distractions from your academics, and the possibility of socio-emotional stagnation. What does that mean? It means that you will probably miss out on certain experiences with some of your friends if you don't know how to budget, if you're not really living in accordance to your income and a sustainable lifestyle, right? So financial aid awards are intended to help mitigate all of your annual college expenses for the entire year. Whatever amount they're giving you in the form of a refund check that comes by 2 times a year, or depending if you're on the quarter system, that's intended to help cover all of your expenses. So that money you need to budget, and you need to do so effectively, right? Um, and that also includes, the direct cost of attendance, which I'll cover later in today's presentation, and indirect costs, which include like toiletries, travel, and social experiences as well. So, how is financial literacy relevant? How is budgeting really relevant to any of your college experiences? Well, because like I said, you're supposed to use the money that you get from your financial aid to help cover all of your expenses, okay? Um, and you also need to have a clear and strategic budgeting plan, excuse me, so that you can meet all of your financial responsibilities. One of the things that you're going to learn later on today and in this month's LA is a lot of the expenses that you should and your family be expecting as you go off to college. So it's very important that you start understanding why all of this matters. Okay. Now, there are some pre-college steps that you must take. I don't know how many of y'all have a debit card or a credit card that's under your name, if you've opened an account or not. And if you have, you can just disregard this section. But for those of you who have not opened up a checking account, these are some of the steps that you will need to take. So to open an account, you will need some form of identification, a birth certificate, a parent or guardian signature if you're under the age of 18, your social security number, or a passport. Also, you need to be strategic about the bank you select. So, the reason I say this is because it's important that you start understanding why why it is that you're going to open up a bank based off on the more or less school that you're more inclined to attend. For example, I myself had the very fortunate opportunity when I was a senior in high school, excuse me, to visit some liberal arts colleges on the East Coast, some of which were in the middle of nowhere. And it was hard to find ATMs and banks in those towns, I want to call them. I don't even want to call them cities. So that's when I first realized, like, hey, you know what? I need to be very mindful of what bank account I open. So make sure that you select a bank that has more or less a national or wide network of ATMs and banks across the country, or at least specifically in reference to the college that you plan to attend. You don't have to open a credit card or a debit card now. You can wait off a little bit more until you made your college decision. Okay, so debit cards, very simple. They are used as a form of payment. So you need to have enough funds, excuse me, to cover your purchases, because all those purchases are immediately withdrawn from your bank. All right. Failure to not have enough funds can lead to overdraft fees, and overdraft fees can range anywhere between 15 to 40, $50 depending on the bank. So it's very important that you start thinking that way. Okay, you need to be responsible, and you need to be mindful of how much money you're working with on a given time frame, so that you don't expend more than that. Now, when you go open a bank account, I also want you guys to ask about some of their hidden fees, excuse me. This includes overdraft fees, service fees, or ATM withdrawal fees. For example, when I went off to college, I got Bank of America, and on my campus there was no ATM that was that was affiliated with Bank of America. They had Chase and they had Wells Fargo. So whenever I'd use my debit card to withdraw money from an ATM, they would charge me $8.95 every transaction that I would withdraw. Not only that, the ATM themselves will also charge me a fee of around $4. So I was losing around close to $15 just to get some of my cash. I don't want that to happen to you guys. So please ask, please be very proactive in finding out what are all of their fees. Now, credit cards. Credit cards is a bit of a touchy subject for a lot of people because we live in a time where the student debt is through the roof, and there's a lot of misconception around credit and credit cards. So I want to encourage you all to please have a conversation with your parents or your primary caregiver about the possibility to open up a credit card, at least in case there is an emergency, right? So credit cards, you need to treat them the same as a debit card. If you can't comfortably pay whatever it is that you purchase in a timely manner, then you probably shouldn't be using it. You need to view credit cards in your mind as a physical cash. Okay, I think that will make it easier for you to refrain from abusing, the credit that you have. And also, credit cards are most importantly, and I always tell my first gen students uh, this about credit cards. Life happens, okay? You never know when you may or may not have an emergency. And if you do have an emergency that you need to either fly back home or something, you know that at the very least you have that credit card to help cover that expense, travel expense of sorts, so you can come and be in and meet that need that you may have. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Just having a credit card is good because, most importantly, having credit, and the longer that you have these credit cards open, excuse me, the more that you start building your credit score, your FICO credit score. So for those of you who don't know, credit score is used for opening opportunities for major life purchases after college. For example, like if you want to buy a car after college graduation, you can get a very low interest rate, almost zero, or as close as possible to zero, because you've already built credit. You are showing that, hey, you know, X person is very responsible. They don't abuse their credit card. They stay within their limit, their credit limit. That's what you want to prove to creditors, so that you can make a lot. You can be more comfortable post graduation in making purchases. Remember that interest rates are a percentage that a lender charges every month to the remaining balance of a loan they granted you. This is how the bank makes profit, guys. Um, However, if you have a very good credit score, you're very likely to not have to accept a loan with an interest rate or a high interest rate, because these banks trust you. They know that you are responsible. But obviously, you build that with time, and you build that by showing a track record of responsibility. And hence, why I highly encourage you guys to open up a credit card. And also, not only just credit cards, but if you plan on taking federal loans when you go off to school, federal loans are also a very powerful tool used to build a young person's credit score, especially if you make timely payments after graduation. And that's something about these federal loans, that oftentimes, the interest rate is very low. It's around 3.7%, depending on the type of loan. And you also don't have to, for the most part, start giving immediate payments after graduation, the exception being unsubsidized loan. Excuse me. And these payments, you can work with the lenders, the government, to make payments that are within your budget, that are very budget friendly. They're aware that you may be, after graduation, you might be struggling to find a job, but if or as long as you're trying to make some kind of payment, you will be in the green and show that you are a responsible person, right? And that people can trust you with money, lending you money. Okay, so, oh, excuse me. I want you guys to see this little video because I think this video is hilarious. If it can play. Oh, God, I don't think it wants to play, guys. But this video is essentially a guy in a panda suit just throwing cash everywhere. That's what we don't want you to do when you start opening up your cards, your debit or credit card, guys. Be strategic, be methodical. Okay. All right. Now, we talked about budgeting. We talked about credit cards, debit cards, the importance of having them. But where do you even start figuring out who you are and how to best maximize these resources at your disposal? Well, you need to identify your lifestyle. All right. And by what I mean by lifestyle is, you need to come to terms and have an honest conversation with yourself or your primary caregiver to help you really understand your reality. Am I frugal, meaning am I a penny pincher? Do I try to make the most out of the money that I have? Or do I live a very extravagant lifestyle? Do I have to have the latest cell phone? Do I have to have the latest Louis Vuitton, Louboutin shoes? Like, you name it, you need to think about those things. And it's not a bad thing, guys. You just need to have that honest conversation with yourself. All right. Why? Because by understanding your lifestyle, you will be able to maximize your college education. You will be able to budget and create a budgeting system that creates a sense of control and stability, that allows you to really prioritize your needs and find creative ways to meet those needs, right? So how do we start budgeting? Well, through group prioritization. And there's two main things that I want you guys to focus on, which are basic necessities, number one. These are non negotiable. You need to meet these needs because you need these to survive. Very simple. That's toiletries, housing, food, cell phone, and clothing. You need these things in this world, right? To be okay. So that's your priority. That is your priority where you need to focus your money on and maximize the most out of it. Then after that, you need to start thinking about college expenses, which is related to books, winter gear if it's applicable, because I know that snow boots, for those of you that may be considering going off to the East Coast for college, you will need a very good winter coat. You will need some snow boots or shoes of sorts. You will also probably need a laptop, right? Regardless of where you're going. You will need also general school supplies, accounting for travel expenses, and a clicker. A clicker, a lot of um, I will get more into detail later, but it's a little like a remote of sorts that professors use to most of the time account for attendance in their classes. It's like around $60-$70. But these are some of the expenses that are looming, and obviously, we're seeing all of these purchases, but it's not just these purchases that you need to worry about, right? You also need to worry about your social emotional needs that you need to budget, right? What is that? It means, do you want to go to movie or theater outings with your friends? Do you want to incorporate eating out with friends more? Do you want to travel for leisure? Do you want to have the latest and the newest iPhone, iPad, iWatch that you don't really need, but it'd be nice for you to have them? These are conversations that you need to have. These are things that you need to be honest with yourself, and with your parents or your primary caregiver. Excuse me. Now, we've broken down your group prioritization. Number one, basic needs. Number two is your college needs. And then number three is your social emotional needs for experiences. Now, I broke these down for you guys. Now, I want you to think about, okay, Juan, thank you for sharing this, but where do I even start? How do I even start breaking this down? Well, there's a Mint and a Wally budgeting app that are great platforms for you to, really incorporate what your monthly budget is looking like and where it is that most of your money is going towards, so you can also budget and maximize your resources accordingly. A lot of these apps are not very free, at least the best features tend not to be free, but that is okay, guys, because guess what? There's also Excel spreadsheets. So, what are Excel spreadsheets? I'm pretty sure we've all seen them. Very simple. You guys, and I actually have a spreadsheet somewhere, a budgeting spreadsheet, excuse me, where you can really break down your monthly expenses, and it'll start deducting and seeing if you're going overboard, like if you're spending too much, so that you are having a really clear track record of where your money's going. You don't need these apps, but they are nice, they're helpful. You can also use Excel spreadsheet. Now, the macro introduction to financial aid award letters, what to expect. Financial aid award letters can be very tricky and very confusing. And luckily, here at Bright Prospect, we are here to help you understand and demystify it for you, not only just for yourself, but for your family as well. So, what do we want? What do we need to understand about financial aid letters? Well, you're going to see that they're going to break down the expenses into primarily two sections, which is indirect and direct costs of attendance. All right, this is just a very broad introduction. This next LA, guys, remember LA number 6 is where I go into details about what this means. So this is a very surface level analysis, right, of a general financial aid letter. Please tune in to LA number 6 to hear a more detailed breakdown. The virtual one would be at the end of the month. So first we have direct costs. What are direct costs? These are non-negotiables. That includes tuition and fees, right, which is set by the institution, and then housing expenses, whether you're living on campus or off campus. Off campus includes like an apartment or a shared bedroom off campus, obviously, not affiliated with the university. And on campus housing includes single, double, triple, or quadruple housing dormitories. If you, as a little insider, know, if you plan on matriculating to a UC, depending obviously on the pandemic, if it gets worse or anything like that, you will most likely be required to live on campus your first year. All right, so it's important that you start seeing what are their housing options there. Okay, and then another thing about direct cost is your meal plans. There's room and board. The board is the meal. So what is the meal? You need to select a meal plan that's more convenient and financially sound to you. You will notice that oftentimes financial aid officers for the first years, they tend to give them the most expensive meal plan, the one with the most meals, just because it's better to have a little bit extra than to be short on something. At least I think that's the approach I believe that they're taking. But however, you don't have to accept what's being offered to you. That is where you can housing and room and board, I should say, or housing and meal plans. That is where you have a little bit of more control in terms of negotiating what works best for you. And then indirect cost, every university will set price range for this, but that includes personal expenses, which is a laptop, travel, toiletries, and then they will also have a budget for travel expenses if you're an out-of-state student or if you're in-state. Oh, excuse me. Um, they will have those options for you as well. And our books and supplies, they'll have like a specific general number. These numbers are in no way indicative of how much money you will actually spend, but they like to have like an idea of how much money a student typically pays. Now, what other things will you see on your financial aid award letter? You will also see a breakdown of institutional aid. Institutional aid is money that you do not repay back, right? That's free money for you. And it could be merit based or anything like that. It's just free money. And that includes scholarships from the institution and outside sources. I have an exhaustive list of scholarships that may be a fit for you, but very few of you have actually scheduled on one with me. All right, I need to know your interests and passions so I can suggest specific scholarship guides for you, my seniors. Please schedule a one-on-one with me. I want to get to know you. Shout out to those that have already reached out to me and set up a one-on-one. Um, so please do that. So you will see institutional aid. You will also see federal grants. Federal grants, again, these are depending if you qualified for assistance on your FAFSA. You will qualify for the Pell Grant. You may qualify for the Pell Grant, for the Cal Grant A or B, and the Dream Act if you're a dreamer, if you're a DACA student. So, yeah, those are some of the grants that you will see. The amount varies. I'm not going to get into detail here of what dollar amount you can potentially be seeing. That's for our next LA. Next, loans. Loans. I know loans is a very touchy subject for a lot of us, right? We're afraid of debt, some of us, right? It's the thought of really becoming in debt for an education can be a little bit daunting. But the way that I want to encourage you all to view loans is as an investment in yourself. All right, we have to reframe things from a much more realistic and positive light. It's an investment in your future, in yourself. All right, guys. So there's two main types of loans: subsidized and unsubsidized. A subsidized loan is a need-based loan, and that the government pays interest while you're in college, but you will start to pay interest typically around 6 months after you graduate. That really depends on national situations, as we saw with the pandemic. That repayment plan was postponed for a lot of people. And the interest rate for unsubsidized and subsidized loans is around 3.73%. Unsubsidized loans is a non-need based loan, and you immediately start accruing interest on those. All right, and the interest is the same, like I said earlier, 3.73%. Next, you will also see a student contribution. And a student contribution, this is where it can get a little bit confusing because some financial aid officers or offices, excuse me, position these types of student contributions as existing aid, and they generally view it like that. However, for example, student contributions include work study of sorts, or savings, or summer contribution that you will see on your financial aid award package. Work study, guys, I will go in more into detail, is a grant that you qualified for, where the government essentially gives the institution a specific funding pool if they were to give you a job on campus, and essentially your salary will be paid from that. Uh, but there's caveats to that. There's some little red flags that I want you guys to be aware of. So tune in into our next Leadership Academy. Next, you will see parent contribution. I know a lot of us have heard of the expected family contribution, the EFC. That is calculated by FAFSA. They have their own very complicated um, uh, formula for that. So I don't really know what to say to that. It's just whatever your parents earn, in your circumstance, they pull that from that. Next, we have a parent direct loan. A parent direct loan is a loan that your parents have to take directly if they want to help pay for some of your expenses. It's under their name. It cannot be transferred to you after you graduate. There are the sole responsible individuals for that loan. And a parent direct loan is intended. It's a parent can take as much money as they really need based off on the proven and demonstrated cost of attendance and the shortage that they have. But I want you guys to be very mindful of those parent direct loans. I don't always encourage families to take them because the interest rate tends to be double that of unsubsidized and subsidized loans. So that's another thing that we'll get into detail in the next LA. Lastly, the also financial award letters will calculate savings that was reported from you as a resource for you to mitigate, right, to help cover some of your expenses. So be aware of that. Awesome. So this concludes our Leadership Academy. I want you all to please send me an email if you have any questions. There are more programming pieces to come, more one-on-one opportunities. I'm always available to you guys. So please reach out to me and set up a one-on-one if you have any questions. I also want to let you guys know that there is a parent meeting coming up on Wednesday, March 23rd, which is towards the end of the month, where I will essentially give your parents a very broad introduction into what to expect now that their child is going off to college, and also help them understand a little bit about the aid and the type of aid that's being afforded to you. Okay, so I will be leading the Spanish presentation. Another colleague of mine will be leading the English presentation. We are very excited. This parent meeting will most likely be virtual, and it will be after hours. It would be somewhere between 6 to 7:30 p.m. Um, so be out on the lookout for that. Please continue to keep up with the Google Classroom. I know it can get a little annoying with all of our announcements, but trust me, guys, we care, and we do that because we want you all to have as many resources as possible and a clear understanding of what you and your family are getting into as you progress into college or life after high school in general. All right, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for watching this recording. There will be a quiz to take in order for me to give you participation credit. And remember, all of this, you guys watching the recordings, attending the LAs or the programming in person or virtual, that does not go unnoticed, guys. Like I said earlier, I'm the person who manages Bright Prospect Scholarship Fund. And, when the committee and I meet to decide based off on number one, demonstrated need, how and who to give scholarship money to, we really take into account your participation. So if you're not doing, I know that I'm probably preaching to the choir if you're watching this recording, but please, guys, tell your friends or anyone who might be interested in joining Bright Prospect or is already a part and hasn't really been coming, let them know that we're a program that welcomes everyone. We don't judge. We understand life is happening. We understand that we have a lot of responsibilities. We're very flexible. So please encourage your friends that are have strayed a little away from the BP path to reconnect with us. All right. There's my email, juanem@brightprospect.org, and my phone number, 909-623-9007, extension 203. have your parents or you call me should you have any question. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.